The scent of sweat and iron filled the air as Sam walked through the gym, his braided red hair catching the fluorescent lights. He wasn't just another trainer. He was the reason most of the women showed up. His deep, lilting accent wrapped around them like silk, making their legs tremble before they even stepped onto the treadmill. His sessions were the most sought after, and his clients pushed themselves beyond exhaustion just to impress him. Behind his charming smile and sculptor's physique, however, lurked a secret darker than the shadows in the weight room. Every drop of sweat they shed wasn't wasted. He carefully collected it, wringing out towels, wiping equipment, even brushing it off their skin with seemingly innocent touches. To them, it was just part of his attentiveness, his devotion to progress. To him, it was the key to something far greater than fitness. Late at night, in his dimly lit apartment, Sam sat before an ancient rose-colored bowl, filled with the sweat of the desperate, the ambitious, the love-struck. He whispered words into a language forgotten by time, stirring the glistening liquid with trembling fingers. His pulse quickened as the room darkened unnaturally, a presence swelling in the air. The ritual had begun. The room pulsed with an unseen force as Sam dipped his fingers into the bowl, tracing symbols on his bare chest. The sweat, infused with the desires and struggles of his trainees, soaked into his skin like a living thing. His breathing grew ragged, his body shuddering as whispers filled the air, unearthly voices murmuring secrets only he could hear. This was no ordinary ritual. It was a pact, an exchange. The more sweat he collected, the stronger he became. As dawn approached, he felt the transformation take hold. His muscles tightened, his senses sharpened, and his reflection in the mirror seemed more striking than before. The charm that already made women weak in the knees had deepened, his voice smoother, his presence magnetic. He grinned, knowing that today at the gym, they would be drawn to him even more, oblivious to the fact that their own essence was feeding his power. At the gym, he tested his influence. A single glance made women giggle nervously, and a casual touch left them breathless. He whispered instruction in their ears, his accent curling around their names like a spell. But it wasn't just attraction. Men, too, felt an odd compulsion to please him, pushing their limits just to earn his approval. They had no idea that every drop of sweat they shed brought Sam closer to something monstrous. Sam stood by the squat rack, watching his trainees push themselves beyond exhaustion. He timed their breaks perfectly, already with the towel to wipe their foreheads or reassuring hand on their backs. Every drop of sweat mattered. His collection method had become more refined, disguised as helpful gestures, casual interactions, and moments of shared intensity. No one questioned him. If anything, they craved his attention, desperate for his praise. One woman, Ada, was especially drawn to him. She was strong, determined, and obsessed with progress. She hung on his every word, pushing herself harder just to impress him. Sam took a special interest in her, offering extra training sessions late at night when the gym was empty. Ada thought she was special, but Sam knew the truth. Her sweat was potent, filled with an unrelenting drive that made it all the more valuable for his rituals. That night, in his apartment, he poured Ada's sweat into the bowl, his fingers trembling with his anticipation. As he chanted, the air thickened, pressing down on him like an unseen hand. His heart pounded. Something was different this time. The presence in the room was stronger, hungrier. The candlelight flickered wildly, and for the first time since he began the rituals, a deep, guttural voice responded. The voice slittered through the room, low and guttural, like a beast waking from slumber. Sam froze, his fingers hovering over the bowl, the sweat inside swelling unnaturally. He had never heard a response before. The rituals had always been one-sided. His offering met with silent acceptance. But now, something had changed. A presence loomed behind him, its breath cold against his neck. "You had fed me well," the voice rasped, sending a chill down Sam's spine. "But you are not ready." The words weren't a warning, they were a challenge. The room paused, and Sam felt a sharp pain in his chest. As if invisible claws were testing his worth, he clenched his jaw, refusing to show weakness. He had worked too hard, sacrificed too much. He would not stop now. The shadows thickened, pressing against him like a living thing. And then, just as suddenly, it all vanished. The air cleared, the candle steadied, and Sam was left alone, his body trembling from the encounter. His reflection in the mirror looked the same, but he knew better. Something had shifted, something deeper than his charm or strength. He wasn't just collecting sweat anymore. He was walking a path that had no return. The next morning, Sam awoke with an unfamiliar hunger gnawing at his insides. It wasn't for food or water. It was deeper, more primal. He craved sweat, not just as means for rituals, but as something his body now yearned for. The thought unsettled him, but when he stepped into the gym, the feeling turned into a thrill. Every glistening forehead, every damp towel, every drop of exertion called to him like a siren song. His trainee pushed harder than ever, driven by an invincible force they couldn't comprehend. Ada in particular was relentless, her body drenched in effort. Sam's fingers tingled when he touched her shoulder, his pulse quickening at the sleek warmth of her skin. She smiled, mistaking his lingering touch for affection. "You push me like no one else," she whispered. Sam smirked, knowing she had no idea how much she was truly giving him. That night, he couldn't wait. He didn't even make it home before dipping his finger into the sweat-soaked towel, pressing the moisture against his lips. The taste was electric, sending a jolt through his veins. His reflection in the gym mirror shifted. His eyes darkened. His skin gleamed unnaturally. The presence from the night before wasn't gone. It was inside him now, watching, waiting, and it was still hungry. Sam stood in the gym's dim locker room, staring at his reflection. His skin glowed with an unnatural sheen, his pupils slightly dilated, as if something inside him was awakening. The hunger in his chest was unbearable now, a constant thrum that no amount of sweat could satisfy. He clenched his fist, breathing deeply, trying to steady himself, but then he felt it, a prickle on the back of his neck, the distinct feeling of being watched. He spun around, expecting to see someone lurking in the doorway, but the room was empty, and yet the feeling didn't leave. His heart pounded as he turned back to the mirror, only to see a pair of eyes staring back at him that were not his own. They were hollow, black voids, filled with swirling shadows. Sam staggered backwards, his breath catching in his throat. The reflection grinned, a twisted knowing smile, as if spoke in his own voice. "You are not the only one collecting, Sam." A sharp knock at the locker room door made him jolt. "Sam!" Ada's voice was hesitant, uncertain. I stayed late to talk to you. Something is wrong with me." His blood ran cold. He had always assumed he was in control, that he was the predator. But as he looked at his reflection again, the shadowed eyes had vanished, leaving his own wide with realization. If someone or something else had been collecting from him, then the game had just changed, and he wasn't sure he was still the one winning. Sam hesitated before opening the locker room door. When he finally did, Ada stood there, drenched in sweat, not from exertion, but from something else. Her skin was clammy, her eyes wild. "Sam, I think something is wrong with me," she whispered. "I keep waking up soaked, even when I haven't worked out, and when I look in the mirror, I see things." Her voice cracked, and Sam's stomach twisted. He knew exactly what she meant. A slow, chilling realization crept over him. He had taken her sweat, drawn power from it, but what if it had left a mark on her? What if whatever had spoken to him in the mirror was now watching her too? He reached out instinctively, pressing his fingers to her damp wrist. A jolt of ice-cold energy shot through his arm, paralyzing him. Ada's breath hitched. Her pupils expanded until her eyes turned completely black. She gripped his wrist with inhuman strength. "You thought that you were feeding it," she rasped, her voice layered with something ancient. "But you were only ever a vessel. The locker room lights flickered violently, casting twisted shadows across the walls. Sam tried to pull away, but Ada's grip tightened. Sweat dripped from her face, sizzling as it hit the floor. The air thickened with the scent of burning flesh. Then suddenly, a scream tore through the gym, but it wasn't Ada's. It was coming from somewhere inside Sam. He staggered back, clutching his chest as an unbearable heat spread through his veins. Something inside him was crawling to get out, and for the first time, Sam realized he was no longer the hunter, he was the prey. Sam collapsed onto the cold tile floor, his body convulsing as if something was trying to rip its way out of him. Ada stood over him, her blackened eyes locked into his writhing form. Sweat dripped from her trembling hands, but it wasn't normal sweat anymore. It was thick, dark, almost like ink, seeping through her pores. "You thought you were collecting power," she murmured, tilting her head in an unnatural way, "but you were only making room for it." A violent shudder racked Sam's body as his muscles tensed unnaturally. His voice blurred, and in the dim lighting of the locker room, he saw something horrifying, his own reflection, moving without him. He grinned wickedly, eyes pitch black, sweat oozing from its skin like a leaking corpse. "Not so fun when you are the one dripping, huh?" The reflection sneered, voice distorted. Then, slowly, he stepped out of the mirror. Sam's scream was trapped in his throat. Then, his other self reached out, pressing a damp clawed hand against his chest. The heat intensified, his skin burning where it touched. "It's time to switch places," it whispered. Sam trashed, but his body was no longer his to control. His skin felt wrong, too loose, too thin, and then, in a horrifying instant, he realized he was being pushed out. He wasn't just losing control, he was being replaced. As Sam's body twisted in agony, memories began to flood his mind, not just flashes, but vivid, bone-deep recollections that he had long buried. He wasn't always like this. He wasn't always a collector. It started years ago in Scotchtown, when he was just a desperate boy searching for a way out. At 19, Sam had nothing. No money, no future, just a sick mother and a life that felt like a dead end. He worked odd jobs at a rundown gym, mopping floors and scrubbing machines soaked in other people's sweat. One evening, while cleaning, he overheard two old men whispering in the sauna. They spoke of ancient ritual, a practice as old as the earth itself. "Sweat carries the soul's energy," one murmured, "and with the right offering, it can grant power beyond measure." Sam had scoffed at first, but desperation makes men do unthinkable things. The first time he tried it, it was innocent, or so he told himself. He collected sweat from a championship boxer who trained at the gym, squeezing out the towel into a small cup. He whispered the words he had stolen from the old man, a name he didn't understand, a presence he couldn't see. The next morning, something had changed. He felt stronger, more confident. People looked at him differently, and then the boxer dropped out of his match with a sudden, unexplained illness. Sam had stolen more than just strength that night, and he liked it. After the first ritual, Sam became obsessed. He experimented with different sweats, fighters, bodybuilders, even regular gym goers. The results were always the same. He grew stronger, more attractive, more magnetic, and those he took from, they suffered. Some grew weak, some lost their drive, and even disappeared from the gym entirely. He told himself it was just coincidence, but deep down, he knew better. It wasn't long before he wanted more. He tracked down the old men from the sauna, finding them in a hidden part of Scotchtown, a decrepit shack reeking of damp earth and decay. They weren't just gym goers, they were keepers of something ancient. When Sam asked about the ritual, they laughed, a dry knowing sound. "You have already started, haven't you?" One of them rasped. "You took without understanding. Now you must offer something in return." They told him the truth. He had unknowingly bound himself to an ancient force. Sweat wasn't just energy. It was an offering, a lifeline to something that had been watching him from the moment he took his first drop. If he wanted to keep his power, he had to continue collecting, but there was a price. If he ever stopped, If he ever failed to deliver what was promised, it would take him instead.